Coming in. And they're all in line.
We are just under 2 months away until the fastest 2 minutes in sports arrives at Churchill Downs.
Oh my goodness!
And today, FanDuel TV continues to bring you all the Derby prep action you need. It all begins in Florida, where our team will guide you through 4 graded stakes races, including the Grade 3 $400,000 Tampa Bay Derby. Contenders are vying for 50 Derby points in Tampa Bay Downs' biggest race of the season, which goes off as race 11 at 5:18 Eastern. And across the country at Santa Anita Park, our team brings you coverage of 3 graded stakes races, including the Grade 3 Santa Isabel Stakes. The Kentucky Oaks Prep is scheduled to go off as race 6 at 6 p.m. Eastern. And if that's not enough, we also have graded stakes action from Gulfstream Park and Oaklawn Park.
Furlong to go, battling for the win.
Don't go anywhere. FanDuel TV is the best place to catch all this exciting action on the road to the Kentucky Derby.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us here. We're going to be chatting about the Tampa Bay Derby. It is the only Kentucky Derby prep race this weekend, 50 Derby points to the winner as well. I'm not here alone. Joaquin Jaime is also on site at Tampa Bay Downs. Happy to have him join here this morning. And we have a lot to talk about. Joaquin, it's the time of year. It's crazy times right now as we get closer to the first Saturday of May.
And as we get to this time of year as well, essentially you win one of these races and you are in the starting gate for the Kentucky Derby. You mentioned it a second ago, 50 points to the winner of this race. Points were awarded to these finishers on the top 5 finishers on a sliding scale. So, but 50 points is going to be more than enough to get you into the starting gate.
Yeah, maybe. I feel like wild things could still happen when we get to the point of the Derby prep races offering 100 points to the winner. But here's a look at the field today. And I don't know who's going to go off as the favorite, really. No More Time or Domestic Product. Probably No More Time. He was the local winner of the Sam F. Davis Stakes. But overall, I feel like this is a mixed bag of horses, Joaquin. You know, there is obviously 2 standout horses with No More Time and Domestic Product. But it's that type of race where we have even 2 maidens in this race and a lot of unproven horses.
In the 2 maidens, Gabby, they actually make some sense in here. I would not be shocked if both of these maidens maybe even hit the board for 2nd, 3rd, or 4th. I think based off some of their recent races, they actually make some sense underneath in here as well. But look, you look at this field of 10, there's only one stakes winner in here, and that is the horse that won the Sam F. Davis Stakes in his most recent start, and our 7-5 morning line favorite here in No More Time. And then you also have a horse that was very close to getting a graded stakes win in the Holy Bull last race in the 5 and Domestic Product. So I am with you where it's going to be those 2 vying for favoritism in this race.
All right, we'll talk more about the field in a minute, but we also have another member joining us here today, Ashley Mayu, and I'm kind of jealous because she gets to be on the backside hanging out with the horses, and actually she's hanging out with No More Time right now. How's it going, Ashley? How's he doing?
Gabby, he's tremendous, having a good time here. He's really fun to watch his personality. Obviously, you walk up to a stall, you don't know what you're going to get personality-wise, and he came right up to me. He wanted to be petted. I did not touch him, and he's a little upset about that, so now he's chewing on anything that he can find. But you can also just tell a lot by a horse about how they look around their surroundings. And the fun thing about him is when people go by on their bicycles, he slowly watches them, stops what he's doing, and then he goes back to, you can see, chewing on anything he can find. But physically, he looks tremendous. We're talking about horses that are proven. He is proven here at Tampa Bay Downs when he had that win in the Sam F. Davis. And I think Gabby and Joaquin, when we talk about this field, you look at the race on paper, there's a good chance he might get the same setup. He was low and on the lead, was able to win at the mile and a 16th distance. He gets the same distance now, 2 starts in a row. I mean, if he gets loose, obviously he's probably the horse to beat.
We got to get that horse a Jolly Ball. or like a tinware, something. Keep his mind busy. He's a lot of fun. Yeah, I mean, Ashley, because I know you have to leave here in a minute. What is the ceiling for this horse, in your opinion? Do you think he can take another step forward? Do you think he has to win?
I don't know if he has to. You would hope that he's going to take a step forward, especially as you kind of work your way towards the Kentucky Derby. But his speed is obviously an asset. I like that he has that local try here. Now, the question is, does he need to take a step forward because others might? And I think the big question is his main rival with Chad Brown's horse in here. I think when you start to look at the field, to me, these are the two to beat on paper. And maybe there's some upside with Chad's horse, just coming off of that nice second place effort behind Hades. He did not break like Hades did. Hades was forwardly placed and took them gate to wire, where I think when you look at the effort that he put in, it was a very game runner-up finish.
Is he making that noise?
No, it's actually his stablemate who actually showed really quick, Bull Nelson, who's 2 for 2 here locally in Tampa on the turf course. This horse is in earlier today and very loud, very bossy, I guess.
I was going to say, I thought that was like Joaquin's stomach. And I was going to say, go get a breakfast sandwich, Joaquin. We can pause this in a minute.
I'm going to go right here, right inside of the bar and go grab some lunch as soon as we're done after this right now. Because, look, Gabby, we have 12 races today, 6 stakes races. We're in for the long haul here. About the next 6 hours, you're going to find us here on FanDuel TV at Tampa Bay Downs.
All right, so let's dive into that. We talked a little bit about No More Time, and let's chat about domestic product. Or let's actually take a look at
made up significant ground down the far outside and starting to steamroll home. No more time.
I loved him in this race. I did. I thought everything, he was making the right type of moves. I didn't necessarily think he needed the lead. I thought he'd be forwardly placed until Paco Lopez puts him in the right spot on the lead, and he pulls this off. Do you have faith that this horse can repeat today?
Yeah, and I think, first of all, everybody loved him that race. I was surprised that he actually went off as the post-time favorite. He was the 3-1,
wasn't he?
Right, yeah, he was the 3-1 post-time favorite in the Sam F. Davis, but we covered it on the broadcast going into the Sam F. Davis where he had that troubled trip in the Mucho Macho Man. He was off slow, he hopped at the brake, he veered in, but then he made a really big move on the far turn and then just flattened out. After the race, we talked to Paco Lopez, and that wasn't necessarily the plan to put him on the front end. Paco said, look, I broke so well, I just put him on the front end. He got in a nice rhythm down the backstretch, and he took the field wire to wire. That wasn't necessarily the plan, but I like the improvement, Gabby, from the Mucho Macho Man to the Sam F. Davis, because if you remember, this horse was supposed to run in an allowance race in December. He got sick. He missed that race. Then going into the Mucho Macho Man, he was light on workouts. He was also supposed to run against Hades and Fierceness in the Holy Bull, but because of that minor setback that he had, Jose D'Angelo felt that he wanted just one more week with this horse. So that's why he scratched out of the Holy Bull to target the Sam F. Davis stakes. So knowing that setback that he had a few months back and the progression from the Mucho Macho Man to the Sam F. Davis, look, it's a 3-year-old that only has 4 lifetime starts, and clearly he's getting better.
Yeah, he is getting better. And I thought that was a really impressive looking win in the Sam F. Davis. And sometimes the Tampa can be the main track is so much different than the main track at Gulfstream. So that's obviously something to keep in mind, and something to keep in mind maybe with domestic product, which we'll get to now. This horse, he finished second in the Grade 3 Holy Bull. I think more importantly, he ran in the Remsen, which figured to be a very key race. I'll get your thoughts on that in a minute, considering how Dornoch ran out of that race. But he ran well in the Holy Bull, and Chad saying that out of that race, he looks like he's been even more impressive in the morning. He's been training really forwardly. I guess all those things are good signs for this one.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the improvement from start number 1 to start number 2 for him. That's difficult to do, to go from 6 furlongs and then stretch out to 9 furlongs over a demanding surface at Aqueduct. And he wins by 4 with the addition of blinkers for the first time. If people have time, I would suggest go back and watch the film of the entire race in the Grade 3 Holy Bull, Gabby, because this horse he was so keen in probably the first half mile of the race. And I think what contributed to that, one was the position. He was covered up. He was down on the rail. But Tyler had such a strong hold of this horse covered up down on the inside. It was his position, but also the slow pace. He was in a bad spot. 25 and change for the quarter, 50 for the half mile. Go back and watch the first half mile of that race, and you're going to see his trip, an uncomfortable type of trip for him. But as soon as he got him out on the far turn, he ducked back down to the rail on the far turn after that. He had a good run after he tipped out. So I thought it was a very good 3-year-old debut for domestic product.
Really quickly before we move on to the next horse, I just want to get your brief thoughts on the Remsen. Obviously, Dornoch coming out of it, winning the Fountain of Youth. I know there's been a lot of mixed feelings about his win in that race. We also saw Sierra Leone come out of the race and win the Risen Star, and drumroll please come back and win the Jerome. So the top 3 finishers came back to win. I think Sierra Leone's one of the most impressive performances that we've seen in this 3-year-old crop so far in the Risen Star. But what is your overall thought of that race?
My overall thought of the Remsen is it's a very live race. Look, there's 2 ways to look at it. People say, oh, I really don't like the way Dornoch, the winner of that race, came back and he won the Fountain of Youth. Oh, but you know what? I really like the second place finisher in Sierra Leone and what he did out of that race. So people don't like the winner, but they really love the second place horse. I don't get it. To me, it's a live race, and domestic product, who was your 7th place finisher out of that, I think even flatters that even more when also rans who were really far up the racetrack came not, okay, they didn't win, but ran very well in their seasonal debuts.
All right, that takes us to the man who has won this race 6 times in the past. I'm talking about Todd Pletcher. Now, I will say Harton, who he sends out, the one. This is a look at his maiden special weight victory last time out, and it took him 4 starts to finally break his maiden. But Joaquin, this was an impressive maiden win. It looked like not only he figured himself out, but Todd figured him out, because this is a horse who started off sprinting on the dirt, then he went to the turf twice, and then he came back to the main track at Tampa. Ears pricked forward at the wire, and look, sometimes these horses can completely change with time, and I think that might be the case with this horse. But we're not kidding anybody. This isn't like the Carpe Diems of the world, or the even the Tapit Trices that Todd has sent to the Tampa Bay Derby before in the past. What are your thoughts on this horse?
Well, first of all, in his debut, he was sprinting on the main track. That was a very fast race for a maiden that he came out of. The winner put up a 94 Beyer speed figure. At least he improved routing in his next 2. Granted, I know it was on the turf, but at least he saw the improvement in his next 2 starts. The race that we just showed, Gabby, that maiden win for Harton, that was actually on the undercard of Sam F. Davis Day. That was very early on in race number 2. I remember the field well. First of all, it was a small field. There was 0 speed on paper, and there were even a couple maiden claimers that were in that field of 6. So on paper, it was a very average group. Granted, he won nicely. He won by 4 lengths. He beat him handily. But Jose Ortiz, I think, was aggressive early on because there was such a lack of speed on paper. And we see Jose do that time and time again every single week here on FanDuel TV. But you do have to like the way, at least for me, my biggest takeaway would be what he did, say, from maybe the middle of the far turn to the finish line, where he got challenged, he was asked, and then kicked away from his competition. But he's still going to have to improve, at least in my eyes, off that maiden win to compete with the top 2 horses here.
Speaking of maidens, can a maiden win this race today? And I think the one maiden that can win this race is Sturdy, because he comes out of that super live race with Corporate Power last time out. 2 questions. Can a maiden win this race? And what do you think about the quick turnaround?
I think it's an indication of how well this horse is doing for trainer George Weaver, when he could probably find a maiden race anywhere between Tampa and Gulfstream Park. Yet he wants to go ahead and take a shot in the Tampa Bay Derby today, wheeling back in 2 weeks. Last race for him, it was a small field of 6, but he was a close third by a half length. But you look at his numbers, and he's improving, and he's getting faster every single time. He's going to have to overcome a wide draw. He's drawn out in post 10 in a field of 10. But at least I could take a positive approach from being a lightly raced 3-year-old, 3 lifetime starts, and every start is getting better. And he really does seem like a grinder. So even though the race is the same distance as his last at 8.5 furlongs, the longer distances, when we start to stretch out, they're going to be better for him. But Sturdy can win this race, and so can the Diodoro Maiden.
And so can the Okay. Yes. So which one do you prefer out of the 2?
the 3. Actually, if you're making me pick between the two maidens,
I'm making you.
I'm going with Give Me Liberty between the two maidens here. First of all, go back and watch the film on January 13th going into the first turn at Oakmont Park for Give Me Liberty. The horse has speed, but there was maybe 5 or 6 horses that were going for speed in the first turn. The jock just wrangled this horse back. He was keen. He was fighting it. He resented it. His mouth was open. He closed the gap going down the backstretch and still ran on well to finish a good second that day and only his second career start. He was up and much closer to the pace in start number 2. So there actually is some hidden speed for the 3 here in Give Me Liberty when you go back and watch the film. Comes off a good second place finish. And look at the winners that he is behind in Common Defense and also another one last race for Steve Asmussen on February 3rd at Oakmont Park. So he's improving. He's also getting better. And they're sort of the same on paper. 3 starts, lightly raced, getting better each and every race.
Joaquin, am I wrong in saying that last time at Tampa was your first time there?
No, you'd be correct. That was my very first time for Sam F. Davis Day.
So for everyone who's joining us this morning and tuning in who haven't quite had the opportunity to go to Tampa Bay Downs, how could you kind of sum it up? And I'm very curious to ask you the same question after today, because you might be in for a real treat. I mean, the fans come out in droves on Tampa Bay Derby Day.
Yeah, and they are already actually starting to file in. I don't think you can necessarily see them right behind me, but if you just go inside those glass doors, the bar's right there. People are getting there early, getting their beers, getting their cocktails. I actually wish I was them right now, but I'll do that after race number 12
definitely
today.
is your
But
speed.
they got there.
You
right?
were like, I'm
the guy
up at the track. That's my past performances. Give me a cocktail. I'm hanging out in Betty.
Right. People have their iPads over there, past performances laid out, good time mingling, getting here early for the card. But this is it's a pure racetrack, and the fans love it here. People are walking around and saying, who do you like in race 3? Who do you like in race 5? Who do you like in the Tampa Bay Derby? The racing is such the focus here, and it's just a pure racetrack. That's going to be the best way I can describe it. It's a Coors Light, Bud Light racetrack rolled up form in your back pocket type of track. It's my kind of place to be.
I love that description because it is absolutely perfect. You hit the nail on the head there. All right, before we go, I want a top pick in the Tampa Bay Derby. Who are you pulling the trigger on? And then also, if you like anybody on the undercard, there's some really nice undercard races as well. I was looking at some of the scratches. It does look like there are a couple of scratches, not too many. But what are your thoughts on those Tampa Bay Derby and undercard?
All right, so top pick for me is going to be one of the favorites. Going back and watching the film and looking at the races, I kept coming back to Domestic Product. I liked his 3-year-old debut finishing second. I like the foundation that he has. I like his last race. I like his stalking trip. I think he's going to get a good trip in here. And I like the spacing between his races here as well. But the long shot for me in the Tampa Bay Derby, Gabby, the 3, Give Me Liberty. That horse would need to be on your pick 4 tickets, would need to be on your Exacta Try and Super tickets. He's 30-1 on the morning line. I think he's going to be a little bit less than that. The other race on the card, speaking of undercards, it's really good. The race before this, the Grade 3 Florida Oaks for 3-year-old fillies on the grass, going a mile and a 16th. I like Austere in there for Brendan Walsh. She was undefeated going into the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. She was a close 5th that day. This is going to be her 3-year-old debut. But 6 stakes races, Gabby, 12 races in total, headlined by the Tampa Bay Derby. But the Florida Oaks is a really, really good race as well.
Okay, lovely stuff there. And just once again, first post at Tampa Bay Downs today is going to be 11:55 Eastern time. I got to get ready. I'm on air in 30 minutes, and I know you're going to be joining me as well. So we are out of here, but make sure, if you don't already have it, download the FanDuel Racing app and opt into the No Sweat Win Bet and get up to $10 back if your win bet loses. That is only on the Tampa Bay Derby today, so take advantage of that opportunity. Thank you all for joining us here this morning, and best of luck to you, Joaquin. Best of luck to everyone joining us, and we hope you join us